Every time. Every time. Welcome in to It's Just Wrestling, the AEW Double or Nothing preview show, prediction show. There's a lot to get into. I'm excited. Double or Nothing, one of the biggest shows to look forward to of the year. A massive wrestling weekend. Night of Champions for WWE was last night. Got an NXT show tonight. There was Impact earlier in the weekend. This one, though, tonight has the chance to be the number one show of the weekend. We're going to dive into it. There's a lot. There are 10 matches on the card. It's really 9 on the main card and then 1 for the buy-in show. I want to dive into these a little bit. Before I get started, worth noting that if you're in a state that has legal online sports betting, DraftKings has a double or nothing $25,000 pool that you can opt into. I wrote up a story. It's over on crossingbroad.com. Goes over all of the predictions that you'll hear in this show, as well as how you can get in on the $25,000 DraftKings free-to-play pool. That's available, I think, nationwide. And if you're in a state where there's legal online sports betting, you can get in. There's a promo there as well. But I want to dive into the card. It's going to be a short show. Let's get into the predictions, shall we? Shall. So the first match up is on the buy-in. So that's going to start at 7 o'clock over on the AEW YouTube stream. I'm still kind of wondering why they're doing it, but the Hardys. So Jeff Hardy is real first match back, if you're not counting the Firm deletion match, which really didn't amount to anything because the Firm still kind of exists and they're still interacting with one another. The Hardys and Hook, the FTW champion, are going to take on the Guns and All Ego Ethan Page. This was a match that was changed as of Friday's Rampage. Isaiah Cassidy suffered that neck injury. So they inserted Hook into the match. Hook and the Hardys, it should be a pretty easy match. A little bit weird, though. The Guns, you figured at some point we're going to get back into the tag titles picture against FTR. They didn't get a rematch. One has to assume that at some point they're going to get back in, but as of right now, it doesn't look like they're part of the plans. And they're going to be in this match with All Ego Ethan Page, who's also part of the Firm or the now defunct Firm or whatever we're going to call it. So that's interesting. A little bit strange. We'll roll with it. It just feels like this has to be the match that the Hardys win and that Hook win. I don't know how it's going to end. I don't really think it matters. It's on the buy-in. If you're going to watch it, certainly watch it. Seems like a good way to get some eyes on the product. I mean, obviously Jeff Hardy still has a pretty big star. So there is an intention here, I guess, an intent that if you have Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy on the show together on this buy-in show, it's going to get some eyeballs. And as they're trying to weave in all of these matches that are going to happen, the 9 on the main card, that you go, all right, well, Christian Cage, I know who Christian is, right? There's the Hardys, there's Christian. All right, he's on here. And, oh, you tell me John Moxley's here. Okay. And Bryan Danielson. Okay, I recognize him. So I think they're trying to go with a star-studded match on the buy-in. We'll see if it amounts to anything. But this should be a pretty easy win for the Hardys and Hook. You have to hope that they're going to at least have more than it won't be a squash, but you certainly hope that the Guns are going to get something out of this, and so does Ethan Page, because they have to be part of something going forward. Now with Collision, 2 weeks away, they're certainly guys that are worth having a program around. I just don't know how or why this made sense, especially after the Firm deletion, but whatever. And now we're going to go in this in reverse order of the graphic that Tony Khan tweeted out on Saturday. So the first match is the TBS Championship match, Jade Cargill versus Taya Valkyrie. Again, I don't expect this to open the show. I actually think that they're probably going to start with the unsanctioned match. Could be wrong. Feels like the unsanctioned match and Anarchy in the Arena have to be spread out. They're a bit redundant. It's going to take time to get the ring back together. I don't know where this is going to go. Does Anarchy in the Arena main event? MJF in a promo said that the 4 Pillars match is going to main event. I don't know, but I think it's pretty safe to say that Jade Cargill and Taya Valkyrie won't be the first match, but again, inverse order on the graphic. Jade Cargill looking to go 60-0 in a rematch against Taya Valkyrie. This time, the Road to Valhalla will not be banned, which means she's got her full arsenal at her disposal. I'm not totally sure where this is going to go. It feels like this is going to be a match that's going to put some fear into Jade Cargill, that it's going to actually, I don't know, perhaps amount to there being a bit of a challenge. Don't know if it's actually going to pay off or not. No way to know. It still feels like where this is going is that Jade is going to eventually drop the belt to a returning Chris Statlander. Seems to be the thing that they've been building to. If the idea was that at some point they were going to have Jade for some reason drop this belt to Mercedes Moné at like Forbidden Door or something, that seems to be out now that she's broken her ankle. So I think it's probably pretty safe to say that we're going to still see Jade retain. I can't imagine that Taya Valkyrie is going to win. If she does, then I certainly hope that Jade Cargill is going to get positioned to go after the big belt, because they're working in this weird quasi like two worlds, that like the way that they had the Codyverse. It feels like they're doing that again with the women's program. So you've got the women's world championship with the outcasts and the homegrowns, and then like over here somewhere they've got the TBS title with Jade Cargill. Like it, at some point she's got to go after the big belt. I mean, somebody should be asking the question on the program during the week on Dynamite, on Rampage, and eventually on Collision. Why does Jade not have aspirations to go after the top belt in the division? Whatever. She should win. If this sets up Chris Statlander, if we see Chris after this match, cool. If not, I genuinely don't know what they're going to do with Jade in the meantime, but I can't imagine they're going to take the belt off of her. Next on that inverted, order, the AEW International Championship. It's going to be that Blackjack Battle Royale match. They've built up this idea that Orange Cassidy is really hurt. They've built up this idea that he's been a week in, week out, all the time champion. So if they're going to roll with that, if that's the way they really want to go, then it makes sense that this is the way that he loses the belt. They've been so anti Orange Cassidy losing in a one-on-one match. So if that's the case, if that's the way they want to go, this is a pretty easy way for him to drop this belt without there being any kind of, negative, I guess, repercussions for his, the momentum or whatever they're trying to build for him. And if you look at the people in this match with him, it's pretty easy to see why he would be an underdog going into this. I am concerned because there are other storylines within this match that make me think that they should have had matches of their own. Comes to mind like Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. If you wanted to expand that to Keith Lee and Dustin Rhodes and Swerve Strickland and Brian Cage of the Mogul Embassy, like that would make sense. They haven't done that. They're going to be in this match. Bullet Club Gold. You've got Switchblade Jay White and Rock Hard Juice Robinson, and they're presumably going to go after Absolute Ricky Starks. Why we didn't get a run back of Switchblade Jay White and Ricky Starks, I still don't know. You've got the Butcher and the Blade in there, Best Friends, Lucha Bros. They all have, some prior run-ins in the tag division. You've got Bandito and Commander, who are going to do some, wild, crazy stuff that, you wonder like how and why you've ever existed without seeing it. Lee Moriarty and Big Bill, surprise, surprise, the Firm. We still have Firm, even though they were deleted. The Firm still remains. Ari Daivari, Tony Nese, Kip Sabian. There are enough people in this match to warrant Orange Cassidy dropping the belt and not having to do it in one-on-one competition. So what I think should happen, call me crazy, this goes back to like way back when the international title was introduced in its previous iteration. It was Clark Connors was in that match with Malachi Black and Miro. And you have to wonder at some point, like, and Pac as well, who ended up winning, like that initially felt like it was going to be a really important title. And over time, it's felt less and less important. If you put it on Jay White, all of a sudden you're guaranteeing one of the best guys on the mic in your company who hasn't gotten that opportunity yet. You're guaranteeing him that time. He looks like a champion. He talks like a champion. He'd be a heck of a guy to put the belt on. So Jay White, maybe it's just hopeful wishing, but Jay White wins the international title in this battle royale. I don't know what they're going to do with Orange Cassidy. Does he go back with Best Friends? Do they try to get in a bigger program for the trios title? Entirely possible. Speaking of the trios title, that's what we like to call the segue. The world trios titles are going to be up for grabs in an open house rules match. If you didn't watch Rampage, then you would have missed this. But the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass Billy Gunn essentially called out the House of Black and said they will answer the open challenge. Now, I don't know how you feel. And if you're watching on the live stream and you want to drop it in the comments, please, by all means, let me know how you feel about it. But the House of Black, despite being what had widely been reported as being disgruntled, since they have returned, have looked dynamite. They've been fantastic. And they have star power and they have a believability as being the ultimate ass kickers on the roster. What they've done aesthetically with the lighting in the crowd has been fantastic. It's brought something new. It's brought something unique. And I don't know what the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass are going to make be that open house rules stipulation. Remember, the challengers get to make one stipulation. We'll see what that ends up being. This still feels like it has to be the House of Black. It's one of the most successful things going. It's one of the most unique things going week in and week out. It seems inconceivable that they would move the belts off of the House of Black. So they'll retain, perhaps setting up down the line Best Friends and Orange Cassidy in a program with House of Black, which hopefully will not end with the House of Black losing those belts. Again, we shall see. Let me see. The next matchup, again, inverted order on that graphic, TNT Championship ladder match, Wardlow against Christian Cage. This one can go a whole bunch of different ways. So follow me on this. Wardlow had a poor first run as TNT champion. Felt like he never really gained the momentum that he should have. It never felt like they capitalized on that organic kind of, grassroots movement by the fans. And it feels like they're trying to catch lightning in a bottle again. He's got Arn Anderson in his corner, but then Christian Cage is going to come out with Luchasaurus. I don't know about you, but unless Arn is going to carry that Glock that he talked about in the Cody Rhodes promo way back, I don't think Arn has much of a chance against Luchasaurus. So we're just going to leave that at that. There are two ways to think about this. If the goal is to establish Wardlow as a legitimate champion, as somebody who can go out and put on great matches and can beat legends, then it makes all the sense in the world that he would go out and he would beat Christian Cage in a ladder match. It goes down as one of the more iconic matches that he's had. Everything's hunky-dory. But there is the elephant in the room. We're 2 weeks away from AEW Collision starting. And if you're TNT, if you're Warner Brothers Discovery, is Wardlow somebody who, when somebody's going, through the channels or whatever, does anybody know who Wardlow is outside of AEW fans? The answer is no. Do you look at him and say, he looks like a champion, he looks like a beast, and maybe that'll bring people in? Sure, it could. Does it perhaps make more sense to put the belt on Christian Cage, again, in a similar way to the buy-in having the Hardys, where you go, oh, man, that's that Jeff Hardy? He's still wrestling? You get the same kind of thing with Christian Cage, where you go, oh, he's got a title. Christian's still wrestling. I thought he had to retire, and it pulls people in. It's an interesting champion to build around with Collision. So even though I think that there's a good chance that they try to make this a stepping stone match for Wardlow, I kind of think that it should go on Christian Cage. The one downside, and I'm going to spoil the main event, or what might be the main event, or what probably should be the main event. If Jay White wins the international belt and Christian Cage wins the TNT title and MJF retains the world heavyweight title, then we're in a weird spot, because then it would mean that all three of the men's singles championships would be held by heels. Seems kind of unlikely, right? There typically has to be at least one babyface holding a title of value. So depending on how the Battle Royale works out, maybe it changes things. But I do think that Christian Cage holding this title would also bring a little bit of consistency, a little bit of stability to the TNT title picture. And Christian Cage is still capable of putting on great matches. I'm going to throw it there. Christian Cage wins this match, takes down Wardlow. I have no idea where Wardlow goes from here. If he loses it, do we get him into a thing where he has to beat Luchasaurus to get Christian again? I don't know. Could they possibly conceivably think that Wardlow against MJF is something that people would want to see, given how they've kind of taken the momentum away from Wardlow multiple times? I don't know. I genuinely have no idea, but we'll find out tonight. The next match is the AEW Women's World Championship match, and this is a run back of one of the best matches that has ever happened in the women's division in AEW, Toni Storm and Jamie Hayter. The problem, and there is a big problem, is that there is reportedly an actual legitimate injury to Jamie Hayter. There have been questions about if the match is going to even happen. It would make more sense that it will happen. Something screwy is going to happen, or there's going to be a distraction and a quick finish. It feels like Toni Storm's going to take it, which then leads us to, they're not crazy enough, right? I know AEW does some crazy things. They can't possibly put the belt on Toni Storm and then go finger poke of doom 2.0 down the line and have her give the belt to Saraya, right? They wouldn't possibly think that's a good idea, right? Right. All right. Toni Storm is going to win. Probably sets up a program with Britt Baker, which would be interesting. I don't know where else they're going to go from here, but because of the injury, Toni Storm probably wins. Then we go to the tag team title match. FTR against Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett. Mark Briscoe is your special guest referee. Things have kind of gone awry in recent weeks. We had the Dax Harwood accidental pile driver on Mark Briscoe when he was blinded by a drink. Mark Briscoe took exception in the past week. Could we see a screwy finish? Could we see Mark Briscoe screw over FTR? And could we finally see Jeff Jarrett get gold in AEW? I don't think so. I think it ends up doing more damage to the company if FTR isn't in the position to be the best tag team and have the best tag team matches. It would not make any sense under any circumstances to re-sign these guys, bring them back in the fold, put the belts on them, and then take them away. Now, Jay Lethal is talented. Jeff Jarrett is doing some of the best work of his career. He's arguably the best heel in the business. But do we need to see Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal win this match? And if so, like, are we going to do like a month-long or a months-long build to All In for a rematch? I don't see it. A rematch at All Out? I don't see it. Hot shot it to Collision? Maybe, but that feels like it would really cheapen things. Keep an eye on Mark Briscoe. FTR retain. We're down to our final 3 matches. And like I said at the beginning, there are 2 matches that are somewhat redundant, and they're going to have to do something to differentiate between the 2. The Unsanctioned Match and Anarchy in the Arena. Now, the Unsanctioned Match has one thing going for it. That, boy, the injection of Sabu into this would certainly make a lot more sense if they go this way. Follow me. You've got Chris Jericho. You've got Adam Cole. We've seen Jericho Appreciation Society, all that. Adam Cole's got Roderick Strong in his corner. Could we see a returning Kyle O'Reilly? Maybe. Sabu is now the guest enforcer, according to the graphic. All right, so Sabu's there. There's one thing that Sabu makes sense for in this match. What's the one thing Chris Jericho has spent the better part of a year terrorizing people with backstage? Fireball, not the drink. But we could certainly have a drinking match if we really wanted to with It's Just Wrestling. I'll come up with a bingo block for the next pay-per-view, but not that fireball. Jericho blowing fireballs into people's faces, not ideal, hurts. Sometimes he misses, whatever. Sabu's injection is interesting because Sabu, if you go back to 1992, Sabu and his uncle, the Sheik, they were in a flaming barbed wire match. And it would be interesting if we saw Sabu go back to the Tarzan Goto and Atsushi Onita match. Could we see Sabu hit Jericho with a fireball? Could that be the thing that puts Adam Cole over the top? Maybe. I don't see a way that Jericho wins this match. I know that he dropped a match on TV to Roderick Strong, but this feels like Adam Cole is supposed to be positioned to go after MJF as the ultimate babyface in a title match program, whether you agree with that or not. It feels like that's where they're building to. Adam Cole's got to win this match. If he doesn't, and he gets stuck in the quagmire of Jericho for 3 months or 4 months, I don't know. I don't know where this is going to go. Then we get to Anarchy in the Arena. Again, I genuinely have no idea how you're supposed to put enough space between the Unsanctioned Match and the Anarchy in the Arena match and this main event. Because if you put any of them too close together, the main event can't possibly live up to the violence that you're going to see in either of those other 2 matches. So then it becomes a work rate match. And do we think that seeing MJF and Darby Allin and Jungle Boy Jack Perry and Sammy Guevara, like can just the wrestling and the high spots from 3 of those guys be enough to make it the match of the night? I don't know. If I'm to assume that Anarchy in the Arena is going to end away from the ring, which will allow them to kind of clean things up in the arena to set up for the main event, then I guess fine, but you better hope that you've got another match splitting those 2 up. I just hope it's not one of the women's matches because it feels like they're kind of the token placeholder in between, like a over the top match and like another good match. It doesn't feel like a fair place to put them. Anarchy in the Arena, the Elite versus Blackpool Combat Club. If we look at this and we're fair about it, it's been an interesting build. Hangman Page comes back the week after Don Callis betrays Kenny Omega, stabs him in the head with a screwdriver. I don't know. My big fear is that last year, Bryan Danielson got hurt during the Anarchy in the Arena match. I don't want Bryan Danielson hurt. He's good for this company. He's very good for the company. He'd be better for the company if they'd book him appropriately, but I don't know. I don't know how you book this match in an even remotely intelligent way. The thing that's going to be interesting is, does Don Callis reveal himself to be part of Blackpool Combat Club? And if so, is there a swerve coming where Konosuke Takeshita betrays the Elite, who he had previously sided with, and sides with the Blackpool Combat Club. And does that eventually set up for Blood and Guts? Because if it doesn't, it's 5-on-4. Well, there are all these rumors swirling about, is Kota Ibushi going to show up in AEW? Could Kota Ibushi, level the playing field if Takeshita turns on the Elite and joins up with Blackpool Combat Club? Sure, that'd be cool. And if that's where we're going, if we're going to Blood and Guts with BCC versus the Elite, and you're going to have Takeshita with the Blackpool Combat Club, and you're going to have Kota Ibushi with the Elite, then by all means, that'll be a hell of a match. Maybe you make that the main event of the first edition of Collision, or maybe you make that another like special, show on Dynamite or a later Collision. You're not going to do that, obviously, at All Out. You're not going to do that at Forbidden Door. You're not going to do that at All In, I don't think. Boy, that would be something. That's a lot of equipment to put up outside. I don't see it there. But it does feel like this is heading to Blood and Guts. And if that's the case, it feels like they're going to want to put the Elite over at Blood and Guts, which means Blackpool Combat Club could walk away with the win tonight. We'll see. Last match. MJF said it's the main event, so I'm going to believe the champion that this is the main event. The 4 Pillars match. MJF, Jungle Boy Jack Perry, Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara. It's a weird build. It's a program that made sense conceptually, but the execution has been iffy. Very, very iffy. And I don't want to crap on it. I really don't. But I think a few weeks ago, you heard from the fans in the arena what people wanted. And I think what people wanted, Batista, give me what I want, was MJF against Darby Allin. There was a better story to tell. It was a clearer story to tell. Sting comes out, cuts an awesome promo, kind of like a "this is my life" promo in the business. Shouts out Ric Flair, shouts out Scott Hall, shouts out, the NWO, the works. He goes through all of it, and he gives Darby the rub, and it makes it feel like a big thing. And you can kind of see, oh my God, could we eventually see MJF, I keep coming back to this, but could we see MJF brutalize Sting, go tomato face, NWO Wolfpack Sting, just like smeared him in blood, send him away for a while, and like have a career versus title match at All In, Sting versus MJF. Like, you could build to it, but you can't do it through a 4 Pillars match. And so Darby on the mic has been really good. He's gotten significantly better from where he was. His in-ring work has gotten even better. I would say that, like, where in the beginning of AEW, he didn't seem believable, because he's this stunt guy, because he's got no fear, because they've established all that. He feels like a legitimate threat, somebody who would like give up the body in every single way to win this title, to take it away from MJF. And then there's the other two. And that's my problem. Sammy Guevara was like, starts out as this super heel. He's aligned with Jericho and the JAS. But then you watch All Access, and he's unbelievably likable and relatable, and you don't want to hate Sammy Guevara. So then it feels like they kind of pivoted a few weeks ago to having him play this tweener role in his promos. And you go, what the hell are we doing? Is he supposed to be a bad guy? Supposed to be a good guy? Like, what are we doing? It feels like this like whole chase your dreams, believe in yourself thing. They're trying to make Sammy a face, unless they're going to swerve us, but I don't think they are. And then the last one is Jungle Boy. And I'm sorry, but he doesn't belong in this program. He's not a main event guy right now. He's not a main event guy on the mic. His in-ring work is fine. If you wanted to make the case that Jungle Boy should be going for a title, this is where I think that the whole 4 Pillars thing would have made more sense months ago for the TNT title. Now, you can make the argument that MJF is beyond, and has been for a long time, beyond what the TNT title was supposed to be, or even the international title. And that's a fair point. But these other guys make more sense going for that secondary title in a longer program, with the winner of that program eventually challenging MJF. Like, I am a champion. I'm a singles champion. I'm going to take your title too. Would have made sense. This doesn't make sense. Jungle Boy he's going to hit some crazy high spots in the match. Sammy's going to hit some crazy high spots in the match. And then you've got Darby and you've got MJF, and they can have a great match, and they've done it on pay-per-view before. And I'm just sitting here asking, why did we not just get it again? Run back a program that works. I have one idea. It's the only way that I will say that this is in any way redeemable. All right. It's probably going to be a really good match. Could it be the match of the night? Yes. These guys are talented enough to have the match of the night. What if Jungle Boy turns heel? What if Jungle Boy, when it seems like all hope has been lost, Jungle Boy is going to win the title, he takes MJ up on the offer and he lays down, takes the pin. MJF retains the title. Now, I don't like it. I don't think that AEW right now, given all of the fallout from Brawlout, can afford to have this. But Jungle Boy laying down in the main event certainly would capture some headlines. It would certainly get plenty of people talking, and I assume it would get people to tune into Dynamite on Wednesday night. I wouldn't risk it. I don't think that the pop and the shock is worth what would happen. It makes far more sense for MJF to just steal the pinfall. You know, Darby lands a coffin drop on Sammy or something, and MJF pins Sammy or pins Jungle Boy. But if you do want to make it interesting, Jungle Boy turning, helping MJF would be one hell of a swerve. All right, I think that's it. That's the entire card. So to review, this is the official It's Just Wrestling, your new 10th favorite pro wrestling podcast predictions for tonight's show. The Hardys and Hook win at buy-in. Jade Cargill retains. Switchblade Jay White wins the international title. House of Black retained the trios titles. Wardlow drops the belt to Christian Cage. Tony Storm defeats Jamie Hayter for the women's championship. FTR retain the tag titles. Adam Cole defeats Chris Jericho in the unsanctioned match. Please give a fireball, Sabu. Fireball. Fireball. We want the fireball. Anarchy in the arena. Blackpool Combat Club win. Maybe Takeshita helps them. Perhaps Kota Ibushi shows up to level the odds for the Elite. BCC wins. Elite win eventually at Blood and Guts. And finally, MJF wins in the main event, retains his title. The real question, and I brought this up at the very beginning. I wrote a thing about how to bet on this. You can't actually bet on it. If you see odds and everything, those are for offshore books. They're not legally regulated sports books in the US. DraftKings is running a $25,000 pool that you can read about. It's over on crossingbroad.com. The last question that they ask, there are 9 selections you have to make. The last thing that they put up as a potential thing to follow is, will someone not part of the match show up and confront the champion at the end of the match? That's the last of 9 potential selections. That'll be interesting. I think so. It doesn't feel like this is setting up for Punk to show up. They've been so secretive about Punk returning and alluding to him showing up at Collision. And it sounds like, if the dirt sheets are to be believed, he's going to get into a program with Samoa Joe at the start. So it doesn't make sense to muddy the waters by having him go into a program again with MJF. I don't know who that person would be. Does Adam Cole win the unsanctioned match and then show up at the end of the pay-per-view? And do we get an Adam Cole versus MJF, face-to-face? Maybe. I'd love to know. So if you're watching live, or if you watch this after the fact, or if you listen in the podcast feed after the fact, I would like to know, who do you think is going to show up at the end of the match, at the end of the main event? Who is going to face MJF next? You've got Forbidden Door coming up, and then eventually All In and eventually All Out. So there are a few different ways they can go with it. It feels like Adam Cole is probably next in line for MJF's title, unless you're immediately going to run things back with CM Punk. But again, I don't expect them to do that tonight. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching the show. Remember, if you're new to the show, thank you. You've now found your new favorite or 10th favorite pro wrestling podcast. It's Just Wrestling. The show is available wherever you get your podcasts. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Pandora as well. And then you can follow this show if you're listening in the podcast feed and you still haven't found it on YouTube. Just search for It's Just Wrestling, or you can do youtube.com/@itsjustwrestlingpod. The show is pretty much weekly at this point. I might do a post show. It probably won't be tonight, but there will be a show this week to react to what happened on Double or Nothing, as well as what happened at Night of Champions. So make sure you tune in later this week, wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. And thanks for checking this out. Thanks for joining me. We'll see. Will Double or Nothing live up to the hype? It feels like it's going to be a big show. We'll see. And I will see all of you later this week. Thanks for listening.